good morning. Welcome to the midweek edition of This Morning on Channels Television. I'm Harriet Agbini. We're counting down to the long weekend. There's just about 2 days left before the holidays to celebrate Easter. And so the markets and the trading machines will be silent for at least 2 days on Friday and, of course, on Monday, because the federal government, Nigeria's government, that is, has declared a public holiday. So there will be very minimal activities recorded on Friday and on Monday, and the markets too will be silent. So there's been a little bit of a rush at the market. I noticed yesterday that the Nigerian stock market still continued its decline because of sell-offs across all of the counters, but we'll get to reviewing the markets in just a bit. Let's talk about some of the stories we're tracking at this time. The federal government says it has constituted a task force to monitor the full implementation of the Economic Recovery Growth Plan. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, told journalists in Abuja that members of the task force team will constitute representatives from the 30 states as well as members of the private sector. He says this and more is expected to help boost the nation's economy in the next 3 years. Well, meanwhile, the federal government has announced a new policy for tomatoes by raising, the tariff on imported tomato concentrate to 50%. This policy also includes an additional levy of $1,500 on each metric ton of tomato concentrate imported into the country. Now, these measures will become effective from May the 8th. When the ECOWAS Secretariat will have been notified. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enelama, says this is targeted at increasing local production of fresh tomato fruit, increase local production of tomato concentrate and reduce post-harvest losses. Before now, the tariff on tomato concentrate was 40%, while the duty payable was put at 10% of the value based on the common external tariff by the Nigeria Customs Service. Also in the news, the Consumer Protection Council is calling for further investigative analysis and review of benzoic acid limits in soft drinks. And this comes 4 weeks after the council launched an investigation into the safety of additives in Nigerian bottling companies Fanta and Sprite. Now, the Director General of the council, Dupe Atoki, told a news conference that even though the levels of benzoic acid, the products are significantly lower than the required national industrial standard limits, the after effect might not pose any health hazards. Mrs. Atoki called for a more intense investigation into the products by regulatory bodies to properly certify the safety of the products sold in the open market and called for a review of the standards. Now, this is not saying that you should not consume any carbonated soft drinks, but for those of you who are health buffs, you know that that's not really in your own best interest. So go for more natural flavored drinks, and if you can, prepare yours. Take a lot of smoothies and make your own juice if you like, since a lot of people do that anyway these days. So you can begin to reduce your intake of mostly carbonated drinks. But let's take a look at where the markets finished off on Tuesday, starting of course with the NSE. I started talking about it at the beginning of the program. The markets, the Nigerian equities market, that is, continued its decline following sell-offs across all counters. The all-share index dropped about 58 basis points to finish at 25,478.06, with market capitalization at 8.81 trillion naira. Well, yesterday's bearish performance put the month-to-date for the index at 0.15%, while it increased the year-to-date loss to 5.20%. Well, let's take a look at the other counters as a volume, value and the deals. We saw a transaction of 3,459 recorded as about 402.67 million shares exchanged hands with a value recorded of 1.92 billion naira. How about the NASD OTC market? That segment of the market was largely unchanged as we saw the index at 631.79 with a market capitalization of 427.55 billion naira. But there was activity recorded, not enough, however, to impact significantly on the unlisted securities index. Take a look at the next page and you realize that 11 deals was done on about 370 I beg your pardon, 4,479 was a total number of volume exchanged yesterday, with a value of 378.92 million naira, and deals done 11. Apologies for the mix-up there, but let's take a look at the closing rates for benchmark treasury bills from the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. And this is, of course, from their Twitter handle. So the closing rates for at least the top 4 benchmark treasury bills, as we'll see in just a bit, you notice that investors are still hovering around mostly short to medium dated bills, and that segment of the market remained bearish yesterday following sell-offs across all segments of the curve. But these are the top 4 as recorded on the FMDQ OTC's market. Let's take a look at the benchmark bonds as well. Notice that the top 4, the bond maturing on the 29th of June 2019, 13th of February 2020, 15th of July 2021. Also notice that the yield is largely around 15–16%, so it's not particularly bad. We've got Omotola Bimbola in the studios with me. He'll be talking to us a little bit more about the state of the market in just a bit, especially as we count down to the release of the March inflation numbers by the National Bureau of Statistics. But let's quickly see what the S&P Nigeria Bond Index finished off at yesterday. A bullish, I beg your pardon, 0.18%. Index level is now at 274.22, and year to date is at plus 4.60%. At the interbank money market, there was the Central Bank of Nigeria did a heavy sale of treasury bills yesterday. I'm just trying to get to those numbers for you, but overnight money came in at 145.25.